Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. So happy to have you today. It is actually just me. I am missing my friend and co-host and wife, Debbie. I just want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a warrior. That's how we always like to start our show. And a warrior is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. You don't have to be a soldier in the Army, and you don't have to be brave. You just have to be experienced and be willing to fight. And that makes you a warrior. And what's important about being a warrior is warriors overcome. And so when you're thinking that you're not capable of overcoming, if you meet the criteria of what I just said, then you have to actually tell yourself that you are. And an example of a warrior, we always like to give that, and I'm going to talk about Debbie today because she's not here, is when you think about someone that overcomes something, I always envision, for me, it's like someone from the movie Gladiator or Braveheart or 300. I see these like mighty, strong people. And what's interesting is in today's day and age, we don't actually see people like that, but we do see people that tackle everything that they take on. And it's interesting because when we're afraid to take things on ourselves, we look at these people like, oh, it must be nice, or yeah, well, you know, if I had that situation, I would do that too. But it's like I don't know that you would, because you're not overcoming the situation you're in right now. And so I always challenge people to, instead of comparing to someone else and thinking you can take on what they're taking on, just look at what you're currently dealing with and then seek out ways to overcome it. And what I want to talk about with Debbie is, I mean, I just watch her go through so many things, and she's my hero. And you know, I'm not just saying that for her because she's not here. But like one thing is her food. You know, a lot of people talk about how hard it is to, you know, eat clean and chase food as fuel and not just give in to the temptations of the flesh and consume what they feel like consuming and chasing a specific flavor or a food from a specific place. And everybody's like, yeah, well, but that's Debbie. You know, what Debbie does that, like Debbie's robotic, or, well, Debbie has an autoimmune condition and all these other health issues, so she has to eat that way. And I've even fallen into a situation where, you know, at one point in time in my life and time with Debbie, I was eating a pizza every week. On Mondays, I would let myself have a cheat day. And unfortunately, you know, looking back, I shouldn't have done that. It added to some issues I deal with now with the dairy and all the garbage that goes into it. But I digress on that. But one day I was eating said pizza. I got it from Pizza Hut, and, you know, I'm just sitting there enjoying it. And Debbie says, wow, that just smells so good. And I had this epiphany. My wife smells and wants this food. She's had pizza before. She's been around that. And I actually took for granted the fight that she was in that moment to not want to consume what I was having. But she fights that battle strong every day. I had a client at one point in time say that she wished that she had Debbie's condition because then she would eat clean to be healthier. And I was like, well, first off, do not ever wish for her condition again. And second off, you have health issues right now and you're not eating clean. So you're currently ruining your body, even though you're trying to compare yourself to someone else that has something more severe than you. So if you can't eat clean right now, you're not going to eat clean then. It has nothing to do with the severity of the issues. It has everything to do with building the discipline to feel well. So, you know, another thing that Debbie does is she just powers through when she's helping other people. A lot of people do what I just said. They think of themselves as failures, or they're not willing to try, or they think it's too hard. And she actually gets in the trenches with you and fights with you in every step of everything she does. She does it with her clients. She does it with her friends. She does it with her family. You know, there's nobody that she's not willing to do that for. And so I watch that wear on her, but she continues to fight through that. And then there's dealing with me. I mean, I have definitely matured in my time with her as I've gotten older, but early on in our relationship, prior to going to the Amen Clinic and getting some studies done on the traumatic brain injuries that I've accrued and getting some procedures that corrected that, I was a handful, and she never gave up on me. She always said that she knew the type of person that I was meant to be, and she hung in that fight. And that's something that I think is difficult in our world today, too, is our world has actually presented the opportunity to give up so easily. In a dopamine-driven society where we chase these short bursts of feel-good off of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and we're, talking to people, and we have the ability to be complimented by random people online, and we get likes, it's easy to pursue that and ultimately give up on the things that take work. But the things that take work actually accomplish something at the end of our lives. And so you see it in relationships. You see people get told they're pretty online, or they're, a good looking guy online. And next thing you know, they're having an affair because that seems more tempting than the spouse at home saying, can you take out the trash and do the dishes? But the problem is that that's fleeting, just like the food. You're going to eat that pizza that I used to tell you I ate on Mondays, but then you spend Tuesday through Thursday feeling lethargic and like crap. And so it's like, what's the point? But the point is that people are putting all of their like joy into these short-term things. And that's actually what's preventing you from overcoming the giant or the mountain that you're looking at that you're saying you can't overcome. Is you're fogging yourself up, you're bogging yourself down, and you're actually starting from a disadvantage. I talk about this in weightlifting a lot. A lot of people have forward shoulder posture or postural deviations and issues. And let's just talk about bench press for a minute because it's an easy one. A lot of men tear their rotator cuffs or get injuries while doing bench press because even if they have the right form, their body is potentially not ready to receive the movement, because their shoulders are rolled forward. So they're starting at a deficit in this press just by proxy of the fact that their shoulders are so forward that they're going to struggle to get that resistance through their shoulder, their front delt, and their rotator cuff to even access the pec. And so then you're asking connective tissue to do a muscle's job, and bam, it tears. So how many things in life are you putting yourself in a position where you're eating yourself into a state of anxiety or depression, or you're just putting yourself in these stressful situations without actually finding assistance or being willing to open up to someone who's maybe been through that. And you're kind of ultimately setting yourself up for failure. And, if you're telling yourself you're going to fail and you're telling yourself that it's too hard, you're probably right. And not because it actually is, but because you're going to make it be. The Bible says that there's power in the tongue. The tongue's truth can actually cause you to overcome. It's a very powerful deal. And if you don't believe me, find a positive work environment or find a positive situation and insert one venomous, poisonous, just negative person and watch what happens over the course of a few weeks to a few months. That entire group will be poisoned, and that entire group will be negative because it's easy for the negativity to skew the positivity, and the negative pulls the positive down substantially quicker than the vice versa. So you have to start thinking, I'm going to speak faith into this. I'm going to speak truth into this. I'm going to speak victory into this. And if you can start doing that, you stand a greater chance of being well. I'll give you another example. I wear an Aura ring. I don't know if anybody else wears these, or something that can actually track your sleep. And I don't sleep. And it's funny because a lot of people, I don't know a single person you talk to that says they can sleep. Everybody's like, yeah, I haven't been sleeping much, or I've been waking up. My ring last year told me my average sleep per night was 4 hours and 27 minutes. My current average per night, I've gotten it up to 5 hours and 17 minutes. So I'm in the fives now, which is great. The problem was last year, I was functioning. I was getting through life. I know it's not healthy. I know I should rest more, but I was functioning. I was okay. I was working. I was doing all the things I needed to do. But I started looking at this ring, and this ring's telling me you need to rest. You need an off day. You're not okay, essentially. You're not going to be okay. And I actually let the ring convince me I wasn't okay. Instead of being like, oh, I am feeling okay. I was like, oh my gosh, the ring's telling me I'm not okay, so I'm not. Maybe I should take a day off. Maybe I shouldn't work as much. The Ring, something that's giving me data, poisoned my mind. So you're telling me someone else talking to you isn't going to do the same thing? If I walk around saying I'm tired all day, I'm in pain all day, I'm upset all day, works too hard all day, oh my gosh, another Monday, and then I say, hey, how you doing? And you're like, well, I'm here. If that's all you got, you're going to poison someone else today. And if someone else is poisoning you the same way, turn it around for them. Instead of saying, hey, how you doing today? I say things like, hey, it's a great day today. Make them think about it. Don't give them the opportunity to be negative with you, because you might just actually plant a seed where they're like, well, I was kind of in a bad mood, but it's really not that bad. It's not a bad day. I get another day. Someone went to bed last night planning to do something today, even if it's a job they didn't want to do, and they didn't wake up. And I guarantee you, if you went and gave them the option, they probably would choose to wake up that day. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For baked goods delivered to your doorstep from our personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-finished beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. Welcome back, everybody. John Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Flying solo with you today without Debbie. Just got done talking about what it means to be a warrior and how she is my hero. She is my warrior. Just impressive. It's why I followed her. I always tell people that I saved her life because I had just had a heart attack. I had to lose 100 pounds. I had just gone through a divorce. I filed bankruptcy. And I had a kid that was 1, and I actually spent a week living in my truck trying to figure out where I was going to live to be able to take 50% custody of my daughter. And I see this woman. She's helped me lose this weight. She's successful. She owns a business. She's single. She's got money in the bank. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let you date me. I am a prize compared to you. And she would be like, oh, gosh, right now, if I was saying this and she was around here. But she's so sweet that what she would actually say is that I did save her, because she was working 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and she wasn't actually living, and she wasn't laughing, and she wasn't doing anything outside of her work. And she knows that she was imbalanced at that time. People talk about a work-life balance, and they're trying to work 18 hours a week. Meanwhile, my wife's pulling like 100. She needed the life balance of bringing me in, and I needed the assistance to become the hard worker I am today. And so cohesively, we came together, but truly, sincerely, she is my hero. That being said, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. A lot of you know this. We've been doing this show for a long time now. It's been a while since I've talked about me. I'm not doing it because I want everybody to be like, oh, John is this, or oh, John is that. I'm doing it because a lot of times the things that we think or you think is a disqualifier from your call and purpose from the Lord is actually your greatest qualification. So when you feel insecure, inadequate, or like you're not right for the job, good. It probably means that you are, because everything you do should make you better. And if you're willing to be vulnerable and put that out there, I think you'll see that people relate to that. So I'm going to kind of run you through a timeline. I just mentioned a little bit about my meeting with Debbie today, but I'm going to take this back. A lot of people don't know my history all the way back to being a kid. And it's interesting because at church yesterday, they were talking about that a lot of times people have skeletons in their closet. They have things, and our pastor said, raise your hand if you have things that you would like people to not know about. And other than the liars that kept their hands down, basically everybody raised their hand. I'm just kidding about the liars. But I mean, who doesn't, right? Like, how many of you haven't said or done something behind closed doors, or maybe even in public, that you regret? Okay, but you can't let that eat you alive, because it's who you were. It's not who you are. And Jesus died so that you don't have to hold that against yourself. And I want to kind of get on that soapbox for just a second, but If you're one of those people that walks around with guilt or shame, I want you to ask yourself, has God forgiven you for that? Has the other person forgiven you for that? If the other person hasn't forgiven you, whatever. But if God and the other person have both forgiven you, what right do you have to be mad at yourself anymore? The people that were hurt are no longer offended. And if you think that God doesn't have the power to forgive you, that means you're taking it into your own hands to forgive yourself, and you're kind of putting yourself above him. So that's just not something you want to do. But when I was young, I was a very sick kid. My mom actually had a highly successful job. When she had me, I have 3 older siblings. She actually had to quit her job, not for them, but for me, because my lungs would collapse. And so as an infant, her and my dad had to take shifts on who was watching me to ensure that I continued to breathe. And the doctors told them that I wouldn't probably ever be that big. I always had asthma. I always had to do an inhaler. I struggled to be outside, especially in like the spring and summer times. I had to do a nebulizer breathing treatment with it, which if none of you know what that is, 35, 40 years ago, it was this little machine that you pulled out. I don't know what it looks like now. Looks like something that could jumpstart a battery. And it has a mask that comes out of it, much like one you would see if someone's breathing through an oxygen tank. And I had to wear that, and I had to sit there. I don't know for what length of time, but it wasn't a couple minutes. And I had to breathe in essentially what I'm assuming was similar to what I took in an inhaler. And I hated it. I just remember being a little kid and just thinking that it sucked to have to do that. Like I was different. I didn't like it. I remember my dad bought me a toy fireman's hat. And he told me that that's how the firemen train, which he's totally a liar, but I'm thankful for it. Because I started thinking it was cool. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm training to be like a firefighter. So pressed on a little bit from young John. I got picked on in elementary school. I got picked on in middle school pretty relentlessly. I could throw some names out right now and call some people out, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do that because we ended up making up in high school, which is great. As I got into middle school and like the back end of middle school and I started to grow, as of 8th grade, I got to a place where my asthma started to get better. And if you've ever had asthma, it sucks. If you've not, it sucks. I think about any time you've been so winded that you almost felt like you're going to die, you can't breathe, and then just cause yourself to get that because you walk up a flight of stairs or because you go for a light jog. It's very easy to be that winded and basically feel like you're going to pass out. It's terrible. And so as I outgrew that into high school, it kind of turned into exercise-induced asthma. And exercise-induced asthma just meant when I did something very vigorously, that's when it would hit me and I could have an asthma attack. Now, what I started doing as I was in high school was I started training at a gym called MMA Gym, which is a hilarious name. It was down in St. Louis off Skinker Road. It's no longer there. It actually closed quite a long time ago, and I believe it was probably because they were selling drugs out of the back of it, which is what I realized as I got older and got into law enforcement. But they were good guys, and I learned a lot. And so then I got into MMA, and I started this whole process of thinking that I needed to help people. Borderline a superhero syndrome. Very, very complex syndrome that can cause you to mistake humility for or assisting people with humility for actually being somewhat narcissistic and doing it to show off. And so I had a lot of situations like that. I ended up in a lot of fights. I ended up in fights in the streets, bars, pool halls, all sorts of stuff. And I always justified them as being for the right reason. I always justified them as, well, I was doing the right thing. I was being the judiciary person that's going to correct these people from their thought patterns and their thought processes. And why am I mentioning all this? Well, I got hurt a lot. I had a lot of concussions. I've got a lot of injuries throughout my body that come from both competing as well as fighting in the streets. And those injuries haunt me till today. And I know that a lot of you have pains and a lot of you have injuries. And I just want to talk about, especially as we go into the next segments, like overcoming that, like not letting that define you or alter the course of the rest of your life. You should get to enjoy life regardless of what your past looks like and regardless of what your scars and injuries are. And so as I went through that stage of fighting, I started searching in college for what it was I wanted to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit more to you about that as we get into the next segment. But if you're interested in what we do for a living, personal training and nutrition, check us out at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. We also have a bakery, Sophie's Bakery. We deliver to your house. You can order that at sophiesbakery.com. It's gluten-free, dairy-free. And for 100% grass-finished beef, the only meat that the Morris family eats, you can check us out at fedfromthefarm.com. They're great people. Welcome back, everybody. This is John Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Feels kind of weird to say I'm talking about me, but that's what we're doing. And in the last segment, if you missed it, I was just kind of recapping real quick. I was a very sick kid. I got picked on a lot in middle school, made it to high school, started learning how to fight, didn't get picked on anymore. You fight a couple times and people realize they don't really want to say much to you anymore, and ended up making up with a lot of my bullies. And as we got out of high school into college, I started trying to figure out what it was I actually wanted to do. I went to college to be a literature professor. I wanted to teach people how to write, and I wanted to do it collegiately. I wanted to teach college kids how to write. I always had like a passion for writing. And so as I got into college, I took a course on what it was like to be a professor. I don't even remember what it was called, basically Teaching 101. And our first essay was to grade essays. So we were given 30 mock essays to grade over a weekend, and it was a Saturday, and I made it through about 8 of them. And I was like, there is no way I could grade papers for a living. No chance. Like, my ADD was wild. I'm like, I can't even finish this. So I ultimately ended up dropping out of college, not sure what I wanted to do, kind of started spinning a little bit in alcohol. And then ultimately met my ex-wife, who, as we started to date, she had an aunt, and that aunt was like, wow, you're a big guy. You ever thought about doing any form of like corrections or working in a jail? And I'm like, no. Just no. So she's like, you ought to come check the facility out. She was the court liaison for Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. She's like, you ought to come check the facility out. I think you'd think it's pretty cool. So I randomly go up there. I think it was a Friday, and Thursday or Friday. It was the end of the week. And there was a lieutenant, and he gave me a tour of the jail. They were a federal and county holdover, but they were also immigrant services holdover. So it's a very busy place. Usually I had a couple hundred people there of all different types. And we get the tour, and at the end of the tour, the lieutenant's like, so when can you start? And I'm like, I guess Monday. And so that was kind of the beginning of my accidental tour into law enforcement. I accidentally became a corrections officer. I don't know how you even say that. I did that for about a year, ultimately decided that I wanted to get into work, and I went to the police academy. I went to the 6-month Eastern Missouri full-time academy. I did do some prisoner transport that year as a kind of fill-in for Lincoln County just to stay in the atmosphere. I graduated from the academy, and I went to the Warrenton Police Department, did a couple years there, and then I went to the O'Fallon Police Department, and ultimately ended my law enforcement career, including the corrections and the transporting, at about 7 years. And what ended my law enforcement career was a heart attack. I was in my late 20s, and I had gotten 100 pounds overweight. I had a lot of stress, a lot of things that bothered me. I won't get graphic on the radio, but it's interesting because I know a lot of cops that were police officers or still are police officers for 2 to 3 times as long as me that didn't see a lot of the graphicness of what I did. And I didn't even really work. I didn't work in St. Louis. I worked in Warrenton and O'Fallon, but stuff happens everywhere. And I still saw a lot, and I took it home. I'm a very emotionally driven guy. That makes me both positive and passionate, but it also makes me negative and rage-filled at times. And so I would take that home. And what happened is I got to where I ate a bunch of bad food. It was the only way I could write off the death, the murder. I watched 2 people that I was in a standoff with, basically from me to 20, 30 feet out for one and about 50 feet out for the other, take their own lives with firearms. I've seen people try to take their own lives by using butcher knives from their elbows down to the wrists, and then I have to deal with them. I've unfortunately dealt with 2 kids that were very young. One was an infant, one was under the age of 4 that I was unable to save. I had a lady that had her leg severed off in a car accident that I had to rip a door off of a car and sustain her till the paramedics showed up. I've seen stuff. And so that gets in your mind, and then ultimately caused me to eat really bad food to feel better. I drank alcohol, and because of my back being injured, which is what got me out of MMA and fighting, I got addicted to painkillers. So over the course of the back end pre-heart attack, I had started taking an absorbent amount of painkillers. I had gotten access to Xanax. I was slamming alcohol, and I was eating fast food, drinking soda and energy drinks like they were going out of style, ultimately leading to a heart attack. Who knows why? And when I had the heart attack, I was already pretty suicidal. Me and my ex-wife weren't doing well. I was very anxious and depressed, and there is a chemical predisposition of that in my family: anxiety, depression, bipolarism. I actually believe it's a generational curse. The Bible's pretty clear on that. Thank God for his greatness and his glory, because I was able to break that going into my daughter, not allowing that to continue. But part of the way I'm not allowing that to continue is I'm not going to let her be attacked by the same things the enemy has attacked my lineage with since the beginning of our family, and that's bad food. That bad food is a chemical altering substance that gets into our brain and actually ultimately causes addiction and causes us to deal with these symptoms that I'm talking about. Now that I no longer consume like that, of course I get anxious, of course I get low, who doesn't? But what I call anxiety and depression have actually gone away. So praise the Lord for that. But I actually fell asleep about a week to 2 weeks before my heart attack with my duty pistol in my mouth. I had taken my pistol and I had decided that that was it. I was sitting in my recliner, and I was drunk, of course. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and end my life here. And so I put my pistol in my mouth, and the next thing I remember was waking up, and my pistol was in my lap. And I remember not being freaked out. I was sobering up a little bit, and I just thought, I guess that didn't work. I guess I probably shouldn't do this, because my ex-wife would come home from work with Sophie, who was at crawling age at that point, and we had a split-level house, and when she would get to the top floor, she'd set Sophie on the ground, and Sophie would crawl over to my legs and then pick herself up onto my knees and look up at me and ask me to pick her up. And I was like, wow, that would have been the last thing she saw of me, was my head missing. And so I ultimately was able to decide I don't want to do that, at least not this way. Still didn't really want to live anymore. So I was driving home from O'Fallon one day. I was in uniform, and I felt the numbness in my arm. I felt the pounding and shift in my heart. And as having been responsive to heart attacks in the past, I knew what it was. My left arm went completely drop. Right arm was all I had left to drive. So I drove myself into Lake St. Louis's emergency room, and I walked in and I said, I am having a heart attack. And the nurses at the desk laughed. They thought I was joking. Which I'm kind of known for, being a goofball, so I don't blame them. Right up until I started taking my duty belt off with my only functioning hand, because I didn't want to fall and have my firearm and everything on my side. And they're like, wait, are you serious? And I was like, I think so. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in a room, and I was told that I had a temporary stent put in. And the doctor basically said that I had a heart attack because I was fat. He used other colorful words because he knew me. You know, we took our inmates there for fits for confinement after having to deal with them just to ensure they were healthy and safe to go be confined in a jail cell. So he knew who I was, and he said, you had a heart attack because you're fat as bad word. And if you don't go lose 60 to 80 pounds, you're going to die before you're 30. And what's crazy is I still didn't really care. Like, it didn't really set in. I was kind of just like, oh, okay, like whatever. And so I remember going back home, and I went right back to drinking. My ex-wife didn't even know that happened because I was only in the hospital for 24 hours. And I actually told her, because I didn't even want to have the conversation with her, that I had been held over at work. And so, I go home and I kind of resume the same things. Another thing is like I hid that from my ex-wife. So if you're hiding things, just know that that's so unhealthy too, even for your mind and your spirit. But I hid my alcoholism. I think to this day, if you talk to her, she would have no idea that I drank as much alcohol as I did. We had separate bank accounts. We would just pull the money together to pay bills. So I bought the alcohol. I had an alcohol dealer because I worked overnights. So Quick Trip, I had a guy, he had my credit card. He would run it for me every night before they had to quit selling alcohol so I could stop by and get it on the way home. And I would drink between 18 and 20, 24 beers a day. And I would throw those away in the big trash can because I always took the trash can to the curb. So my ex never even knew. And I tell my buddy this, he owned a gym that I worked out at, and I just tell him about the heart attack, the whole deal. And he's just like, dude, like, that's not okay. Like, you need help. He's like, you got to meet this lady. She's our nutrition coach here, and she's going to help you. And I was like, well, I can't afford it, man. And he's like, well, I'm going to cover it for you because you need this. He also knew that if he said he was going to cover it for me, that it would make me do it because I don't like owing people things. Getting better about that, allowing myself to accept blessing. But man, I used to be so bad at it. So I tell him, okay. So I remember the day I go in to meet Debbie, I had actually drank. I have some beers in my system. I have some Percocet in my system. And I come lumbering in. And the only thing that he has told Debbie about me is that I'm a 6'4", 310-pound ex-cage fighting. I'm a hand-to-hand combatic specialist, and that I'm a police officer. It's all she knows is this like big, tough, rugged dude. So I come lumbering in, kind of drunk and high and really kind of just pissed off at life. I'm sure I looked like I was going to kill her. In fact, she thought I was going to. So she says she feels the Holy Spirit telling her, which she tells me much later, that she has to talk to me about coming to know him. And she's like, God, there is no way that I'm talking to this guy about it. He's going to kill me. Also, our mutual friend that owned the gym was a self-proclaimed atheist. So she was also worried that it could eventually like ruin their relationship business-wise just because, he would be like, why the heck would you bring my buddy in and talk to him about that kind of stuff under my roof? So she said her hand shook the entire way back to the office, which goes back to the first segment about her being a warrior. And I remember I walked in, I shut the door, and I looked down at this chair, and I said, do you want me to sit here? And she goes, do you have faith? Now, before I continue, you guys have to know that's not how she starts every nutrition appointment. In fact, I was like one of a million. So don't feel like if you sign up for nutrition, you're going to be asked immediately if you have faith and sat down and taken to church. But that's what happened to me. And I said, in what? And she goes, in God. And I said, well, I think so. My dad was a Baptist preacher. And she goes, no, I don't mean do you know of God? I mean, do you have a one-on-one personal relationship with Jesus Christ as your Savior? And I was like, And I just remember I went from standing to like seated, slumped in this chair. This 5'2", 110-pound woman is hovering over me like Goliath. I'm sunk down. Like, how did I even end up down here? And she just talked to me about Jesus. And what she did was, it was pretty impressive. A lot of people didn't know. Like, even my buddy didn't even know how much I drank. People had no idea. I swallowed my feelings in silence. Didn't go to bars. I drank at home. Nobody knew I took the amount of Percocet and Xanax I did because I had 2 doctors I was getting it from. And I also had a guy from the streets I was getting it from that avoided getting arrested because he got me pills. So it wasn't a good situation, but people didn't know. And so she says, listen, I can help you lose this weight, but it's not going to save your life. What's going to save your life is getting whatever oppression is on you off of you. There's something on you, addiction, something. And unless you break those chains, I can get the weight off you, but you're just going to put it back on. If you're willing to go to war on this stuff, I will join you in the trenches. And I want to talk more about this in the last segment, but this is what we do. We go in the trenches with you. Some more information, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. We do have a gluten-free, dairy-free bakery, and we deliver to your door. If you're interested in that, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And then our friends, they're fantastic. They do grass-finished beef. It's the only meat that we actually eat in our household, and that's fedfromthefarm.com. Give them a check. Welcome back, everybody. John Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. If you've been hanging out with me up till now, I appreciate it. Just kind of been telling you my story. And the whole reason, I was just talking to my producer between segments here about this, is somebody is dealing with something that I'm talking about. I battled with myself coming into today. I knew that I was going to be alone for this segment for this show for about 2 weeks. I mean, maybe even a month. I don't even know. It's been a while. And I was thinking about guests to have on, people to talk to, and I ultimately landed on I'm supposed to tell my story. And I told myself till I was blue in the face. The enemy was like, no one wants to hear your whole story. Don't make it about you. That's narcissistic, blah, 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 blah. And then finally I was like, no, I feel called to make it about me because one of you is listening and you are struggling with this. I don't know if it's addiction. I don't know if it's suicidal thoughts. I don't know if it's a career that you shouldn't be in. I don't know what it is, okay? But I promise you, if you put your faith in God and you just persist, you'll get there. People think about being perfect. I need a perfect life. No, you need a persisting life, because what's going to happen is life's going to hit you in the teeth and you have to decide whether or not you're going to let that keep you down. And at the risk of sounding cliche and going full Rocky on you, it ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. It's so true. Life will never stop hitting you. So if you're waiting to change your life and become healthier or try to find a way to be better, if you're waiting for it to be a little bit better to do that, it's never going to happen. So you have to go looking for it. So let's continue. As I kind of recap last segment, I was talking about Debbie walking me back to her office, hands shaking, knowing she's supposed to talk to me about the Lord, asking me if I have faith, sitting me down in my chair, and then she calls me out for oppression and addiction. Nobody knew I was an addict. I would be willing to wager my street doctor is what I used to call my guy, my dealer. I bet he didn't even know how addicted I was, because the percent I got from him, and this was back in the day before doctors had a system that showed them like where you were getting prescriptions from. So I got a prescription from one doctor that was delivered to Deerberg's and a prescription from another doctor that was delivered to Walgreens. And I got Percocet and Xanax. And I also got Percocet and Xanax from my street doctor. So they didn't know. My alcoholic, my Quick Trip guy never asked questions. As far as he was concerned, I wasn't drinking all those beers alone. But Debbie knew. Debbie discerned it. And so, like I said, that's not how she starts her nutrition programs. But man, what a warrior to be willing to tell this guy who could ultimately rip her in half that he needs to remove oppression from his life or he's not going to be okay. So she said she's going to go in the trenches with me. We talk. She runs all this motivational, talking to me, discipline, and then she tells me exactly what to eat, when to eat it, how to make it, where to get it, how to prepare it. And she gives me this and I leave. And I remember I went home, and on the way out, my friend asked me, so how'd it go? And I'm like, good, I think. Yeah, it was a wild experience. So I go home and I hadn't prayed in a long time. And I remember saying, okay, God, you got a call for me. I'm oppressed, demonic oppression, whatever. If you actually want me to do whatever you're calling me to do, you're going to have to make me survive. And I don't believe in calling God out, guys. So don't do this. Actually, don't do anything I'm about to tell you I did. So I went in, I took all of the beer I had left in the refrigerator, and I flushed it down the toilet, threw the bottles away. I took every Percocet and Xanax I had, which was a lot because I never liked to be low on stores, and I flushed them down the toilet. And I said, I am about to go through withdrawals that should kill me, okay? I also didn't have any caffeine. I literally fasted everything. And I spent multiple days around my toilet, vomiting, seizing, having seizures. And again, for my ex-wife, I told her I had the flu and I was staying in the bathroom so that she wouldn't get sick. That's all she knew. And I remember waking up one morning because I told God, if you get me through this, I'll dedicate my life to you. If you make me survive this, I'll know that I'm supposed to do this. And I remember walking outside. I don't even want to know how much weight I lost. I mean, I was so sick and walked outside. I had to go back to work. I had to call into work 2 days. And so I'm going back on my third day. And I looked up. I was so weak. And I looked up at the sky and I said, wow, that's a pretty cloud. And it took me a minute. And then I was like, I don't remember the last time I looked at the sky or nature. And I have never said that's a pretty cloud. The word pretty didn't come out of my mouth. And I knew, okay, all right, God, I'm ready. Like something's got to give. And I hit the ground running. I ultimately went through a divorce. I went through bankruptcy. Like I said in the first segment, I didn't know what I was going to do. I left law enforcement. I started training part-time for Debbie. And that ultimately led to us obviously entering into a relationship after our friendship blossomed and opening a facility together. And I would tell you the rest is history, but that's not necessarily true. Every day is still a fight, guys. It hasn't gotten easy. In fact, you could argue that it's gotten harder. I have so many people that rely on me and they rely on me to be well. I have to care for myself at a level that I've never cared for myself before. And a lot of things I deal with have actually worsened. I have a lump in my lymph glands in my groin and around my groin now, and they don't know what it is. They can't figure it out. I'm fatigued and weak. My back has crushed vertebrae in it, and I have degenerative disc disease, and I have impingement. I haven't felt my left leg in 4 years. I'm working on that. I'm seeing a new spine guy on that. I'm seeing some specialists. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my lymph system. Praying, of course, that we're not dealing with cancer or something like that. I'm not claiming anything like that. Working on why my energy levels are so low, why my strength is low. Why am I telling you guys this? Because, guys, I have to persist too. And you can do the same. If you're dealing with these things, I promise you can do the same. You just have to put your mind to it. I wake up every day, and when I put my feet on the floor, I like to think two things. No matter how bad of a mood I'm in, because I wake up angry. I don't know about you guys, but like I wake up and I'm like, I could sleep 18 more hours, like, rah, 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 you know. And then you got to get coffee, and me, I have to get up early enough to have a little bit of coffee. It's like my last addiction. So I think two things when my feet hit the floor. Praise the Lord that I got another day, because someone went to bed last night planning to do something today and they don't get to. And then I also like to think that when my feet hit the floor, that my demons say, oh, shh, he's awake. I want them scared. I want to know that I'm doing something today for someone else. And Ed Milet said something that I thought was profound, and it has altered my view. I'm going to share it with you. I'm in a business group with Ed Milet. He's an amazing man, billionaire, business owning, just Christian guy. And he said a lot of people think their call and purpose is what they do. And a few less than that think that their call and purpose is why they do it. They do it for the Lord or whatever it may be. He said, but your call and purpose is actually what happens to other people when you do what you do. So if you're a janitor and you keep a place clean and you think you just clean the place, what happens there? Are you cleaning a school? Does the cleanliness promote an atmosphere where kids can get smarter and go forth and be the strong next generation? If you're in real estate and you think, oh man, I'm just flipping houses, are you? Who's the last person you sold a house to? Did they leave a crappy neighborhood to a good one where their kid is going to be safe? Is that kid going to grow up and change the world? Did you just sell a commercial location where someone's going to start a business that ultimately affects the world or the nations? Or maybe even just a local group. Maybe it's not that big, but people are well because of it. You're a personal trainer and you think, oh, I'm just running people through exercises. You might be changing someone. You might be creating longevity. Perhaps someone can now put something in a compartment in their closet that they used to not be able to reach. That is life changing. Okay. So even if you think you're not in a place that changes people's lives, I bet you when you really chase it down, you're wrong. Okay. So when you think about why you do it, think about what's being affected because of it, because a lot of people are more willing to do something for someone else than they are for themselves. And so if you can change that mindset and think what I'm going to do is going to positively affect me, it's going to positively affect other people, and it's going to make me able to press through my day, do it. If I can do it, guys, I'm nobody special. I'm really not. If I can do it, you can do it. You know, my testimony and everything I just shared with you guys, it blows my mind every time I hear it. In fact, a lot of times I don't even think it was me. I can see my law enforcement career almost from a third person view. I don't even really see it from my own eyes anymore. It's like a movie I watched so long ago, different phase of my life. And I'm sure you guys have things that are the same way. I don't believe in the statement of PTSD. I believe everybody has post-trauma in their life. Don't claim that as a disorder, but claim it as something that shows you that you actually overcame that. So whatever it is you're dealing with right now, you can overcome that too. Because at some point in your life, you said, this is the hardest, toughest thing I've ever dealt with. And you overcame that. So you're saying it again now, big deal. Overcome it the same way. If you need help, that's what we do. It's not just about personal training and nutrition. We get in the trenches with you. It's about changing your life, mind, body, and spirit. Take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. We also have a bakery. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, designed to make you healthy when you want a treat. That's sophiesbakery.com. And then we also love to just promote our friends, Fed from the Farm. They are amazing farmers. They take it serious for your health. Grass-fed, grass-finished. They have chicken, turkey as well. That's fedfromthefarm.com. Thank you guys for listening. God bless.